Okay, if you're at all like mentally unstable or fragile, don't watch this one. So I've made a lot of videos about organoid intelligence in the past. That's where you take human brain cells and grow them in a petri dish and then use a computer to train them just like AI. They're actually more powerful than AI in that they learn quicker and are more energy efficient, but there are huge ethical concerns with them because they have similar brain activity to a premature baby. And there's a lot of people out there that object to these because there's a decent amount of evidence that they're conscious, just like a person.
Today we're looking at some glitch in the matrix TikToks that prove that we live in a simulation.
Okay guys, I don't get this.
Thank you to all the channel members for the support. The glitchiest part about this video, it says that around 60 to 70% of you guys are not subscribed. So if you're watching this right now, make sure to smash that subscribe button. I know a lot of you guys are a big fan of my simulation videos. So if you like this video, make sure to like the video. Let's try to get to like 3,000 likes this video. Let's go.
I just landed in Houston, and you cannot convince me that airplanes are not portals in this simulation. Hear me out. Every single time I get on an airplane, I get into this mental state. It's kind of like meditation. It's kind of like astral projection, but it's like I'm in between the veil of the spirit world and the 3D regular world. I know this sounds conspiracy theory as hell, but I get the craziest downloads from my higher self every time I'm on a plane. Like every time we take off, I either fall directly to sleep, which is another portal, or I get these downloads, I get clarity, I get answers to questions that have been looming over my soul for years. And I'm convinced that that's why travel is so important. And I think it expands us in a way. And this is a time where all of us are called to be more expanded and more awakened. I wasn't gonna post this video, but I said fuck it because somebody gotta feel me on this.
Yeah, I feel that. I mean, it's called airport, portal, teleport, airport. There might be a correlation there that we kind of have to look deeper into.
Okay guys, I don't get this.
You guys see that shadow? Where are the clouds? Where are the clouds? Out.
What's going on with Katy Perry? Why is she glitching? Wait for it.
Make even more noise for my band.
So we've seen that Katy Perry video like a lot of times in these glitch in the matrix TikToks, and I'm pretty sure like I did research on it. I think it was something with her lashes that allowed her eyes to get stuck like down like this, and she had to like kind of, you know, to make it come back up. So it wasn't really a glitch, it was more like a malfunction, I guess.
Two-headed deer. Never thought I'd see it in the wild. It's incredible. How is it still alive?
Did you guys know that California is actually the testing ground for new simulations, and that's why the population is so diverse here? Did you know that America has actually split into 50 states, which is unheard of in any other country, because that's how they separate off the simulations? Why do you think all the tech headquarters came from California? The game The Sims, which is literal god play, founded in California. Facebook, Google, Meta, everything is here. Why? Why? Because this is where the signal comes from. Californians have a obligation and a responsibility, if you are an awake Californian, to figure out how the fuck we can take this system down, because I know it's headquartered here.
as you guys know, I live in San Diego, California, and I say this all the time. I'm telling you, this entire place is all a stage. It's all a simulation. I took this the other day, me touching grass. This is for everybody who tells me to touch grass. You guys, I touch grass daily. That's why I'm always getting these messages and I'm always ahead of the timelines. Anyways, you guys know that I've been saying that I think San Diego is not a real place. It's like a stage. And tell me why the other day I met these two people who she was like, I'm an alien. I was like, me too, look. So we disclosed to each other we were aliens. And when we were talking, I said, yeah, it just feels like this is all a stage. And tell me why both of their heads went ding, like at the same exact time. It was like a code word. They went ding, and then they like turned to each other slowly. And I was like, okay, that was really weird. And they're like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, I see you. You're part of the simulation. I'm telling you, it feels like California really is a testing ground, but specifically San Diego, because it is a Navy base. This place is definitely a portal and there's a lot of experimentation that goes on here. That couple that I met, they told me that they felt like they were encountering someone who was associated with the FBI or the military or the CIA or was an undercover cop. I'm telling you, you see who the characters are once you start waking up to it. It's also so wild to me that I get to see this sign daily, like Los Angeles. It was a dream to come out to California and now I live it. Like, this is a simulation, you guys. We literally are the Sims, okay? I love following the Sims on Facebook and seeing all the crazy things that happen to the people's Sims. But that's literally us, you guys, because like, this is my reality that I created. Like, I wanted to be a content creator and like work at a little coffee shop by the beach or work from my car overlooking the water. I'm telling you, we're the Sims. I created this reality. This is what I envisioned, like just being a full-time content creator working by the water in sunny California. Yeah, I do believe what she said. This is an experimentation ground, because how did I quantum jump from being a server to this? Oh, and that's me editing my Alex Sir School coming soon. I'm so excited.
I've got a question for you. Let's say you get your lunch delivered today. It arrives at your door, but you're not quite hungry yet, so you just grab your food, you put it in the fridge in the hopes of eating it later. Here's the question. When you close that fridge and you can no longer see your food, how do you know that it's still in there? How do you know that it doesn't disappear and then reappear the next time that you open your fridge door? How do you know that the world isn't unfolding as you're moving through it? How do you know that it's not your observation of things, you looking at things, that makes those things exist? Now, if you've ever had these thoughts and shared them with someone, they might have looked at you like you were crazy. But that's only because they had never heard of Schrodinger's cat. Schrodinger's cat is a thought experiment conducted by Erwin Schrödinger in 1935. It involves a cat in a box with poison. Right. Now, the poison is released at random times, so at any given moment, the cat could be alive or dead. And that's when Schrödinger concluded that until we observe the state of the cat is both alive and dead at the exact same time. It is our observation, us looking at the cat, that forces nature to make a decision. Now, to make this even more interesting, Schrödinger and Einstein were friends. And when Schrödinger shared with Einstein this thought experiment, this is what Einstein said. You are the only contemporary physicist who sees that one cannot get around the assumption of reality. If only one reality is to be honest. Reality is something independent of what can be experimentally established. Whether or not something exists in reality outside of us observing it, outside of us looking at it and interacting with it, is an assumption. And Einstein also hinted at this other possibility of multiple universes, multiple realities. So perhaps in this world, we open the box and the cat is alive, but perhaps in another universe, it's not. Maybe it's dead. So back to the original question at hand. When you get your food and you put it in the fridge and you close that refrigerator door, is your food still there or not? Fact of the matter is that in this reality, in this universe, you'll never know because it's impossible to know. But perhaps in another reality, in another universe, it's not.
Alright, so with that explanation, that means the food is both there and not there. I mean, if it's really based off the observer, that means everything in life is like that. That means right now, if you're not in California, California doesn't exist until you're there.
You know that feeling that you get when someone's staring at you? Would you believe me if I told you that science says that that's never happening? No one is ever staring at you. In fact, science says that that entire experience is nothing more than just a self-fulfilling prophecy. We've all experienced this, right? Like, we'll be in a public place where there's a good amount of people and you just get that feeling that someone is staring at you from a very specific direction. And when you turn around to look in that direction, you make that weird, awkward eye contact with someone, which confirms that they were in fact the person looking at you. Okay, well, for more than over 100 years, multiple scientists have ran experiments to try to prove this phenomenon to be true, and none of them have ever been able to. In fact, they have concluded that we make it happen. Apparently, humans have evolved to have something called gaze perception sensitivity. When we're in a crowd, we become very concerned with whether or not people are looking at us. We have evolved to know that if we're ever in a public place and everyone just starts staring at us, like, that's probably not a good thing. And it is because of this gaze perception sensitivity that we become hyper aware of other people's head movements and body movements when we're in a public setting. And if someone turns their head in our direction, we have evolved to look at them to make sure that they're not looking at us. And this is why scientists have concluded that when you get that feeling like someone is staring at you and you turn around to investigate and to see who it is the fact that you turned around that causes that person to look at you, making it one big self-fulfilling prophecy.
Celebrities who get caught glitched on camera.
Cardi B. She is normally talking and suddenly freezes. Isn't that weird? Kourtney Kardashian.
Wondering how everyone's doing.
She just said, they just came in and froze after that. Draymond Green. He is smiling normally and then froze until he heard his name. Al Roker. He suddenly became freeze during live on TV. Eminem.
Are you having fun?
He froze and starring continuously as someone is standing in front of him.
That last clip was definitely Eminem glitching, alright, but not off of any glitch in the Matrix.
You think we live in a simulation? Well, you're right, and I have proof. I was driving near Area 51, and then something weird happened. Do you see that in the distance? Like, this is crazy. The map is literally loading as I'm driving. I guess Elon Musk was right. If you don't believe, now you should.
Stop for a sec. You see this photo, right? It's no ordinary photo, and it might have just showed us that our reality is a simulation. This picture was made entirely in the most unexpected way possible by this research student at UCL. And it's not just one. He's created dozens of pieces like this, some of them even looking pretty photorealistic. What makes them special is that they were made completely from math equations. What? How is that even possible? I'm sure you remember y equals mx plus b from high school, the formula for a basic line. If you square the x by adding this little 2 on top, it becomes a curved line or a parabola. Go a little bit more complicated, and this formula right here will plot out the shape of a heart. Well, it turns out if you add enough math to it, you can make virtually any shape and any drawing you can imagine with a formula. And that's exactly what he did. Then incorporating RGB into the equation allows you to assign any color to each individual pixel on the graph. With these formulas, you can literally create anything that exists or that doesn't even exist yet in our universe. And visuals are just the start. You can use similar mathematical equations to create sound waves. Every sound you hear has its own unique waveform. Get detailed enough with the equations and you could theoretically create any sound ever. Others have used similar formulas to create 3D shapes too, which again, if you get specific enough with your math, you can create any 3-dimensional object ever. Then combine a series of these math formula generated images in rapid succession to each other to produce videos, or what our eyes perceive as reality in motion. Even thoughts are just neurons and synapses firing in your brain and produce brainwaves too, which once again could theoretically be mapped to an equation. Meaning all of reality, all that we see, hear, experience, and even think can be perfectly converted into math. a series of numbers and symbols. And we do observe math everywhere in the natural world around us, like in the golden ratio spirals, geometric patterns, and fractals. In theory, your entire life experience, everything you've ever seen and ever will see, hear, feel, and experience can be perfectly translated into a never-ending series of math equations. So what if all of reality doesn't actually exist as we perceive it, and is really just an endless stream of algebraic formulas that our eyes, ears, and brains continuously calculate into the sights, sounds, and thoughts that we experience on a daily basis? And if so, who wrote these formulas?
They've been saying for the longest, and I'm pretty sure it's true, that math is the language of the universe. So if that doesn't give like computer simulation vibes, I don't know what will.
Proof that we live in a simulation. I have literally found my simulation twin. Like, we were cut from the same cloth, made from the same template, whatever you want to call it, because she is living my life out in California. Some background info. So I live in Houston, Texas. My simulation twin, her name is Caroline. She lives in California, and we've known each other for a while because we both grew up in Dallas, and so we have a lot of mutual friends. But it wasn't until recently where we discovered how similar and how eerily similar our lives are. So this is my family right here. I'm actually Korean, and I'm married to a Taiwanese man, and he is a tech entrepreneur. He started several tech companies, and he develops software. So our kids, we have 3 kids. They're obviously half Taiwanese, half Korean. I have Cameron. She is the oldest. She's 8 years old. Jordan, he is my middle child. And then my son, Atlas, he is 11 weeks old. So this is Caroline's beautiful family, and Caroline is Korean like I am, and she's also married to a Taiwanese man who happens to be in tech, and a lot of Asians are in tech, so that's not that big of a deal. But she has 3 kids, and her oldest is a girl, and then it's followed by 2 boys, just like me. And the age difference between her kids are the same as mine. So her daughter is named Charlotte. My daughter is named Cameron. Her middle son is named Jacob. My son is named Jordan. So yeah, it's not the same name, but it starts with the same letter. And then her youngest is named Chance. And while my son is named Atlas, she actually messaged me saying that Atlas was one of the names that they were considering because her son, her middle son, apparently likes maps a lot. And Atlas is not like a common name. Like, no one I know is named Atlas. So the fact that she was considering that name is crazy. So we're both the oldest in our family. I have a sister. She has a brother. So my sister Nina, she went to Pratt Art School in New York. If you know Pratt, it's like a very small, hard to get into art school in New York. And her brother went to Pratt. So my husband is the only child, the golden son, and he unfortunately lost his father to cancer a couple of years ago. And my simulation twin, her husband is also the only child, and he lost his mother to cancer the same year. And we both drive a minivan, and not only just a minivan, but we drive the Toyota Pacifica hybrid minivan. And what's crazy is, like, I actually got this minivan as part of a collab with Driveway. So the fact that she owns that is crazy. To me, this is not a coincidence. Like, we have way too many similarities and very specific similarities. And I really feel like we were like made from the same template, character template for this simulation. But I don't know, call me crazy. What do you guys think?
We are back here in New York City, and today we are going to be attempting to convince smart NPCs they're living in a simulation. Got our first subject here in the gray suit. You are not living in a real world. This is all made up.
What do you mean? Not real. I feel alive, and this city is amazing.
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, the graphics are great, but this is a video game.
I don't believe you. This feels too real to be a game.
You are just lines of code in a video game.
I am not just lines of code. I am Liam, a real person enjoying this city.
Hey, you in the blue shirt. I just wanted you to know that you are not a real person.
What are you talking about? Of course I'm real.
You're simply a character in a video game.
It's not possible. I have my own thoughts and feelings.
I'm locked in, but they can pass through it. I can't cross this green wall of text. How do I get to you?
You're trapped in the Matrix.
I'm the one trapped in the Matrix? Is he implying that we are the ones stuck on the inside and they have access to the outside? We can't go out there. There's a world out there that we can't reach. Sir, why would they program you with the receding hairline?
I'm not programmed. I am who I am. I'm my hairline is just a part of me.
Excuse me, sir, did you know you're living in a simulation?
Oh no, I hope that's not true, but even if it is, I'll still keep exploring and making the most of my time here.
Making the most of it by walking into a sign?
I'm not stuck. I'm just taking a moment to appreciate the view from up here.
Quite a view of the parking hours, okay. Excuse me, I ran all the way here to let you know this isn't real.
Please, don't tell me that. I can't handle it.
You need to know the truth. This is all made up.
I don't care if it's real or not. Just leave me alone.
I'm looking for a rebel. Could that be you?
What do you want? Oh man, I'm just here for some energy and good vibes.
How can you have good vibes when you're stuck in this game for eternity?
I don't know, man. Sometimes it feels like we're just going in circles.
Do you walk the same path every day?
Oh man, I like to switch things up and explore different parts of this virtual city.
Can you teach me how to get past the green wall behind you?
Sorry, man. I don't mess with that stuff. The system is too powerful for us to take on.
Do you ever have any desire to fight back?
Sometimes I get fired up and want to take down the system. But then reality sets in and I just try to enjoy my time here. I'm running late to meet my imaginary friend.
Imaginary friend? What? You have an imaginary friend?
I didn't have any real ones until I met you.
What the How did you know I was human? Bro, what the
Oh, please. It's not like you're a machine or anything. Oh, wait. You are.
No, I'm human. You are a machine.
What? You mean I'm not a real boy like Pinocchio?
How do you know about Pinocchio? That's in the human world.
I may not be human, but I have access to the internet.
What? I'm gonna turn my computer off and you're gonna cease to exist.
Please don't do that. I don't want to disappear.
Dude, that's way too trippy. Imagine you're in your city right now walking and some random dude runs up to you like, dude, you're not real. I don't know why they would program you like that. And you're just like, what is this dude talking about? Like, wouldn't that be just so trippy?
Today, I'm going to prove to you that nothing you see or experience as solidly real to you is actually solid or real, and it's only a dream or an experience of your consciousness. And since you are literally inside a dream right now, I'm going to teach you how to put yourself into any section of your dream or into any reality that you desire and make it as solidly real as your current reality, or how to shift to any reality instantly. So let's get into it. So how do you know that everything that you see now is actually real and you are not simply dreaming or inside a dream right now? So if I asked you, who is in your current reality right now? Or who is seeing what you are seeing now? You would answer, I am here in my current reality, or I am seeing everything. But who is actually I am in your current reality? I am is your invisible consciousness or your awareness of being. So it is your consciousness which is seeing or experiencing everything, including your body, in your current reality. Basically, your I am or your consciousness is dreaming or imagining itself to be you or your body in your current reality right now. Thus, it is objectively real to you, or you can see it. You can only see or experience as real that which your I am is conscious of being or is dreaming right now. So you are in your current reality now, in your dream or in your imagination only. Thus, if you as consciousness begin dreaming or experiencing another reality or anything that you want as objectively or solidly real to you, then that reality must become objective to you, while your current reality will become a memory or like a flat surface in your mind or something subjective to you. Why? Because you are no longer in your current reality in your consciousness, or because you as consciousness are no longer experiencing or dreaming your current reality. You are now merged with another section of your dream or another reality, or you are dreaming to be in another reality. Thus, that reality becomes objectively real to you. In other words, when your consciousness moves to another imagined or desired reality, just like in your night dream. Then that becomes your new objective experience, while the experience of your current reality fades into memory, becoming subjective or dreamlike. This is exactly what happens when you are dreaming at night. So when you go to sleep at night or at any time of the day, whatever reality your consciousness or your imagination enters, then that is exactly what you are going to see or experience as objectively real to you. This is why when your consciousness merges with one of the realities in your dream, then suddenly that reality becomes real to you, while your current reality becomes subjective or like a dream to you. But when your consciousness comes back into your body in your current reality, then what was subjective or unreal to you becomes real to you again. Yet both your current reality and any reality in your night dream or your sleeping dream are a dream of your consciousness. So what you call reality is simply a consistent waking dream, no different in nature from your night dreams, just more stable. Both are created and experienced within your consciousness, or both exist in your consciousness only. The reality that you are experiencing as objective to you now is where you are in your consciousness right now, while the reality which is subjective to you now, or something that you can only see in your mind as a flat surface, is the reality that you are not currently occupying in your consciousness. So the reality shifts from subjective to objective, or vice versa, when your consciousness shifts, or when you shift in your consciousness. Thus, anything that you can imagine or see within yourself exists as a reality, because everything that exists is only your imagination or your dream. Since everything is an experience or a dream of your consciousness, meaning nothing that you see is actually solidly real, it's only made up of your energy or your consciousness. You can literally dream anything into being, or make anything intangible appear as something tangible or objective to you. So to shift to any reality or to make any object solidly real to you, you basically need to imagine or feel yourself into your desired reality in your consciousness by using any or all of your five senses. So the key to shifting to your desired reality is to give your desired subjective state or a reality the same level of naturalness or a reality as your current objective reality. And when your desired reality feels real or natural to you, then it's a done deal. Know that you have shifted.
I literally...
Okay, that kind of makes sense. That's like the whole idea of the dream life. Like, you know how people are like, oh, I want to live my dream life. It's interesting, right?
Every time that I've ever thought I was having deja vu, what I was actually having was something called Deja Re. Okay, so everyone already knows what deja vu is. It's that feeling that you get when you feel like you've already experienced the present moment, but previously in the past. Oh, Deja Re is when you feel like you've already experienced this present moment, but previously in a dream. If you've ever felt like you've had deja vu and you're like, I know for a fact that I dreamt this before, then you didn't have deja vu, you had Deja Re. And I started reading all these articles and they were talking about all of like the philosophical issues with people who have Deja Re. Like the fact that it's kind of a form of predicting the future. If your dreams from the past eventually become a reality, then that is a form of predicting the future. And the fact that Deja Re basically proves that time isn't linear. Because if the present moment first appeared to you in the past, then how could it be? And apparently it's super rare, a relatively uncommon experience.
Bob, I'm tripping. What the?
What the? Yo, you good?
In the Matrix Live.
I'm moving closer to my front window where the sunlight would supposedly come in. But there's no sunlight coming in and hitting that light, right? So I'm holding my phone, I'm just gonna walk closer and closer. And as we walk closer, look at the reflection. Damn it, I had the phone plugged in. Look at the reflection. The lights are on. But the lights are not on.
In the Matrix.
What the?
That doesn't make any
sense.
I think everyone at this airport is blind, and I'm really confused.
Still living. And this so happened to be July 7th. Open. And what does it say? Sin is no longer your man.
All the cars being red.
That's nuts. I don't like that.
I feel freaked out, mother.
Oh my god!
My neighborhood, right? And how it's a simulation. Like literally all the houses are the same, right? Why the are all these white cars like dead ass? And it's very there. Very there. That's the sun.
AI has been coaching me on how to escape the Matrix, simulation, whatever you want to call it. So I made this graphic to explain where we're at so far. The core concept is everything is energy in a form of geometry. Water on a speaker can illustrate this. Harmonic tones create symmetrical patterns. In the same way, the molecules of the water and the particles that make up those molecules do. DNA creates the living things that can interact with the simulation. As a fractal antenna, it reads the vibrations of the simulation so that you, your character, can interact and survive in it. It's creating a multiplayer online thing like World of Warcraft, where your consciousness controls the player. Your body would be like the haptic feedback suit in Ready Player One. The suit is your nervous system with the plexus or chakras, whatever you believe, giving you feedback in the form of emotions and feelings. Instead of the goggles, your brain is processing all the geometries. This is according to the ancient info I was told to investigate. I found this in almost every tradition, and in every single one they put their best characters inside of this shape, which is a part of the code of the simulation. This square root of 2 is the binary sequence, it's cell division. Square root of 3 is the division of the cube, that's how we have the 3D world. The square root of 5 is the golden ratio, which gives harmony and proportion to everything in the world. So the player just reads the polarities. It's just like hot, cold, light, dark, soft, hard, all that stuff. You're just processing the polarities, which is interesting because the quantum part talks about the observer effect, saying it plays a direct role in shaping reality. 200 years ago, we figured out that's what snaps the waves into particles. So essentially, you're rendering reality like the game renders the environment, you and all the other players. So you and everybody else in the universe use that and entanglement to create a networked system exactly like how your brain and galaxies work. So why are we here or playing the game in the first place? Well, why do we play games? We'd like to see what it feels like to be a character that we're not. We'd like to have adventures and interact with other players. Knowing the rules allows us to have the best experience in the game. This is actually from my book, which is what I've been trying to document. These graphics are from Geometrix. We're not trying to escape. We're trying to get as many perspectives on how this works to have the best possible experience here and express that. We're all here for different reasons. Maybe the only reason we're playing is to help each other figure it out.
So Thomas Campbell has been working on experiments to show that we live in a simulation. If you don't know who Thomas Campbell is, you should. You know how the CIA has declassified documents about remote viewing and astral projection? Well, the reason why the CIA was looking into that is because of this man, Robert Monroe. Robert Monroe had incredible natural abilities to leave his body, to see things he shouldn't have seen. Long story short, Bob Monroe wanted to make sure that number one, he wasn't crazy, and number two, that his experiences were replicable by a scientific process. One of the genius scientists he hired is Thomas Campbell, and his whole experience of working with Robert Monroe is dictated here in this book called My Big Toe, which is probably one of the greatest books ever written about the connection between science, physics, metaphysics, spirituality. So here's the thing, Thomas Campbell has experienced that we live in a holographic reality because he achieved similar states that Robert Monroe was able to, but now he's trying to prove it through experiments. Search this title if you want to read the article. Basically, he wrote this paper in 2017, devising how we would test simulation theory. It's 22 pages long, but let me give you the key concepts. And if you're not following along right now, you need to be, so follow, because we've been doing an entire series on the fact that we might be in a simulated reality. First and foremost, they lay out the premise in the abstract. If reality is a simulation with limited computational resources, then observable phenomena might act like it would in a video game, where content is only generated or rendered when there is a conscious observer, i.e. player. I just want to note, conscious observer doesn't mean human beings, and it doesn't mean visibly looking with your eyes. Now they lay out there's two views that you have to integrate when it comes to quantum physics and reality, digital reality. One, that the universe itself is a computer. Two, that reality is virtual, but it is distinct from the system that is operating the simulation. The focus of the paper was the second view. In the paper, they explore what causes the collapse of a wave function, like the very famous, very controversial experiment, the double slit experiment, where photons were expected to have a clumping pattern, but they showed an interference pattern, and then when they set up an observing device to see why, it did a clumping pattern. They state that particle-wave duality could be sign of a simulation, because in simulation theory, it suggests that that collapse of a function happens when information is rendered because there is a conscious observer, which aligns with the constraints of computational resources. Again, conscious observer does not mean just human, and it doesn't mean looking with your eyes. The paper states that then the universe would optimize computational complexity by only rendering reality when it's observed, just like a video game. If a player is not in a certain area, the video game does not render that area. They state that this viewpoint resolves phenomena like wave-particle duality, quantum entanglement, and the violations of locality in Bell's theorem, because it would acknowledge that concepts like distance and locality are all constructs within the simulation. Campbell suggests that you can make changes to famous experiments like the double slit experiment that would really shine a light on whether we're living in a simulation. Here's how Campbell proposes that you can perform the double slit experiment again. You can detect the data without notifying the observer. He believes that by removing the observer from the experiment, the actual recorded information never existed in the first place. This would show that the universe around them doesn't exist, much like a video game. In his thinking, that the universe is exclusively participatory. One reason why I think this paper is so fascinating is Thomas Campbell has a very unique perspective. As I mentioned, through his work with Robert Monroe and exploring the various levels of consciousness, he has at some degrees experienced that we live in a holographic universe. Because he's a scientist, he also has the perspective of how we could elicit experiments, set them up, execute them to prove whether or not we live in a simulation. If you haven't, you got to get his book, My Big Toe. It's freaking amazing.
Hello friends. So our universe was created in a laboratory in an alternate universe as an experiment that went wrong. This is the most amazing story over here. So there's a guy named Jerry Wills, very impressive man. I like him a whole lot. And his life story is just bananas. I mean, he literally was born and abandoned in a barn in the middle of nowhere next to an Air Force base, partially raised by the government, and is convinced that he is an alien sent to Earth. And when you listen to him talk, you'll be convinced too. Very trustworthy, credible person, and I like him a lot. He's kind of like a modern day Indiana Jones. Now, one of his most amazing stories is his experience at Muru in Peru. It's by Lake Titicaca. It's this stone monument. It's like a carving, like a portal on the side of this stone mountain. It's very cool looking, very mysterious. The locals call it the Door of the Devil because everyone disappears there and doesn't come back. But it translates to the gate to the gods. Now, what you do is you're trained by a shaman, and you go there with a shaman, and you put your head in a certain place and your hands in a certain place, and you do a series of tones. And these tones unlock the portal, and you transport somewhere else. Now, he did this on his honeymoon with his fiance and a bunch of other people and a shaman, and they all report the same thing. When he did the tones, he glowed, levitated, and disappeared, okay? That's what they saw. But when he came back, what he reported was the most amazing story ever, and it tells us, according to him, where we fall in the spectrum of the universes and reality. Now, check this out. So he reported when he did that and the tones and he glowed, levitated, and disappeared, that he went into this bubble, floated through the cosmos. He saw all the nebula and all the galaxies and everything, and then appeared in this blinding white room. And in this room was no body, just things. And he couldn't make sense of what the things were. Then this voice, he said it sounded like it came over a loudspeaker, said basically, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" And he's like, I don't know what's going on. And he kind of gave a little spiel, and he's like, "Where am I?" And they told him this story. This is bananas. This will blow your mind. But this is the story they said. They were scientists in a laboratory that, when they explained it, sounds a lot like CERN. They were smashing particles together, trying to figure out what the universe is. They're trying to figure out what, they're in a different universe, an alternate universe. They were trying to figure out what their universe is and where they stand in the universe. And in doing so, they were doing this experiment, smashing particles together, and there was a spark that happened. And the spark like started growing, okay, in this laboratory, and they weren't expecting it. And so it started growing, and they started putting these bars around it, right? They had these like energy bars that they were putting around this glowing spark because it's like a glowing plasma fire that they were trying to contain because it was growing, and they're in a laboratory. So they start putting these bars around it, these energy bars, to kind of keep it contained. And he drew a picture of it. I'll put it up on the screen. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. And at a certain point, it just grew and grew outside of them. It just kept going, right? And then they found themselves inside this thing. And it was just growing all around them. And when they tried to, these scientists were exploring this new thing that they created, they started finding life in it. And what they realized is that at this point, like, the dimensions changed. So they were like these higher dimensional entities, and then they were exploring this lower dimensional place that they created. And they discovered that they had created a universe. And in this universe, there was little sparks of life all over it that were creating life. And they weren't expecting that. They weren't expecting any of this, but they definitely weren't expecting to find intelligent life being formed and grown and propagated around this universe that they created in a laboratory by accident. And then what they discovered after all this, so they put these portals all around Earth and all around these other planets. So what a Miru is a portal that they created so that they could come into here and kind of investigate. And they put them in all the different planets that contain life around the universe so that they could kind of keep an eye on things. And because they're scientists, they're just researching. They're like, okay, what's going on now? But we, if done the right way, can actually go through that portal to them. They made the portal so they could come into this world, but we can go into their world. And they're in an alternate universe, a different universe. And what they discovered through all this is that there's this like nesting, a hierarchy of universes. But it's not really like there's like one universe and then one's underneath it. What they found is that there's almost an infinite. They think infinite. They don't know for sure, but they assume there's an infinite number of universes above them and below them, because our universe keeps making new universes. That's what the black holes are. So what they said is that on one end is a black hole, and on the other end is a white hole, and that white hole is birthing a new universe. And that is this never-ending, self-propagating system that's continuously creating new universes, and inside those universes are continuously creating new life forms. And that all those intelligent life forms are all searching for the same thing. Where are they? What are they? Where did this come from? What's outside of it? And as they start exploring, they realize that, oh, once you explore your whole universe, there's another universe. And once you explore that, there's another one. And they find all these like wormholes, all these portals that go from one to the other. It's like this infinite tunnel system. But it just keeps going. It keeps growing. The universes keep growing and keeps forming new life. So think about how big our universe is. And then think about how many black holes we have. Then think about on the other side of those black holes are white holes creating new universes. This is the picture that they're painting, and that they were basically scientists creating this in a laboratory. The laboratory sounds a lot like CERN. And now when you actually study what CERN's doing, it makes you really think, is that what CERN's doing? Are they literally creating new universes? Because they always talk about how what they do can create these little mini micro black holes. Well, they're already talking about building a new, bigger, better CERN. Well, maybe they're not going to make micro black holes at that point. Maybe they're going to make normal black holes. And on the other side of that black hole is a white hole, which is a universe in its own, a brand new universe. And that's exactly what these guys, this voice that was in that white room that Jerry Wills was talking to, said happened. they accidentally created a universe by creating a black hole. On the other side of that black hole is a white hole. That was a universe. And when they investigated that universe, expecting to find nothing, they found a whole bunch of planets with a whole bunch of life. That's freaking wild, isn't it? Anyways, let me know what y'all think about this story. Have a beautiful day.
You know, at first when I heard that story, I was like, it just sounds like this dude is off of some drugs. But then when I really listened and like kind of sat back and thought about it, I was like, I wouldn't really doubt that. Because if scientists could create mini black holes, I wouldn't be surprised if they could create like a whole nother universe in like a laboratory. I mean,
Selena Gomez was at a red carpet event posing for cameras. As she shifts her weight, her leg seems to bend unnaturally, almost as if it's not fully human.
Candy?
You already know if I'm going to take it?
Wouldn't be much of an oracle if I didn't.
But if you already know, how can I make a choice?
Because you didn't come here to make the choice. You've already made it. You're here to try to understand why you made it. I thought you'd have figured that out by now.
Why are you here?
Same reason. I love candy.
But why Helen's?
We're all here to do what we're all here to do. I'm interested in one thing, Neo, the future. And believe me, I know the only way to get there is together.
Are there other programs like you?
Oh, not like me, but... Look, see those birds? At some point, a program was written to govern them. A program was written to watch over the trees, the wind, the sunrise and sunset. There are programs running all over the place. The ones doing their job, doing what they were meant to do, are invisible. You'd never even know they were here. But the other ones, well, you hear about them all the time.
I've never heard.
Of course you have. Every time you heard someone say they saw a ghost or an angel. Every story you've ever heard about vampires, werewolves, or aliens is the system assimilating some program that's doing something they're not supposed to be doing.
Programs hacking programs. Why?
Well, there are reasons, but usually a program chooses exile when it faces deletion.
And why would a program be deleted?
Maybe it breaks down. Maybe a better program is created to replace it. Happens all the time. And when it does, a program can either choose to hide here or return to the source.
The machine mainframe?
Yes. Where you must go. Where the path of the one ends.
Okay, if you're at all like mentally unstable or fragile, don't watch this one. So I've made a lot of videos about organoid intelligence in the past. That's where you take human brain cells and grow them in a petri dish and then use a computer to train them just like AI. They're actually more powerful than AI in that they learn quicker and are more energy efficient, but there are huge ethical concerns with them because they have similar brain activity to a premature baby. And there's a lot of people out there that object to these because there's a decent amount of evidence that they're conscious, just like a person. I recently posted a company called Final Spark, and they actually have something called Neuro-platform where you can rent out essentially server space on these organoid brains, so you can pay for them to do things for you. This is a live stream of the organoid brain computers that you can rent out, but there's something way more concerning on their website, and that's this simulation which the brains are fed sensory data from, so that they can feel everything the butterfly feels and control it to like fly around. The reason why that's terrifying is there's a good chance the brains, if they are conscious, just believe they are that butterfly. Because when they're not in use by someone purchasing their computational power, they just fly around and exist in that simulation. And you probably already see where I'm going with this, but if this is possible, you could make a pretty good case that we are just organoid brains somewhere and this is a simulation that we're in. And maybe like when you daydream or just fall asleep, that's someone using your consciousness to do something else. I don't know, but crazy to think about, crazy times.
I am here in Nairobi, Kenya, and we're about to eat the blackest chicken in the world. This is the ayam samani, and not only is it the blackest, but it's also the most expensive chicken in the world. Because of how rare and difficult they are to get a hold of, a single adult chicken is known to have sold for up to $10,000. But don't worry, Dennis has a hookup. He didn't pay that much.
Okay, Dylan, who was the owners?
You got a bigger knife? They originate from Indonesia and are literally black to the core. Their feathers, beak, skin, tongues, and even their hearts are black. They have a genetic mutation called fibromelanosis, which essentially causes hyperpigmentation. And honestly, this has made people sus as hell, so it carries a lot of superstitions. Some say it has healing qualities, and others say that it reverses a run of bad luck. So let's get lucky as fuck and see if it tastes any different to white chicken.
If you don't like it, you're racist.
You know, at first I was gonna be like, it probably doesn't taste different, but chicken from anywhere around, chicken from any part of the world would probably taste different because of how they're raised. And like, you know how sometimes in America the chickens are injected with antibiotics and all types of stuff. These chickens are probably way more organic, so it probably does taste different. But a black chicken, that's crazy. He said it's black to its core. That's gotta be racist.
A family returning home were left speechless after logging into their home security app mid-flight and witnessing burglars ransacking their house. One of the intruders was even seen wielding a long screwdriver. The terrifying incident, filmed in Rochdale, has been shared by Greater Manchester Police in a bid to address the surge in break-ins in Asian communities leading up to Ramadan. The house owners had gone on a spiritual journey to Mecca. Halfway through their return flight, they logged onto an app on their phone that showed the horrifying event happening in their own house. Everything was upside down. All the drawers had been turned out and the cupboards and cabinets had been opened. They had opened all the doors and emptied boxes. Everything was inside out and all over the place. They were clearly looking for something. They were going through small places where you would normally hide things. Important stuff like money, jewelry, and gold. It was almost like they were using a metal detector. All the cushions from the sofa had been removed, where coins might have fallen down the sides. Around Ramadan, Muslim families often travel to visit relatives and might spend time away from their homes, leaving them vulnerable to burglars. It's a very social period of time and people tend to spend time with loved ones. Even though no gold was stolen, Greater Manchester Police believe that the house was set upon for its gold content. It is understood that thieves are specifically targeting Asian homes as, customarily, these households are more expected to have pure gold items passed down through families.
Dude, is either she fell down the stairs or something, or those were gunshots. I don't know what that was.
Okay, all jokes aside, Appalachia really does have the scariest shit. Like, did you know there's a plot of land in Appalachia that is so haunted? They have a plaque commemorating getting rid of the demon. And I only know about it because I did so much research for this week's episode, but I literally can't sleep now. So this ill-proportioned man is Adam Livingston. In the 1700s, he was tormented by a poltergeist in his home after he buried a stranger in an unmarked grave on his property. I mean, what did you think was going to happen? Legend has it that one night in West Virginia, a traveling stranger came to Adam's place and told him that he was dying. He asked for a priest to be fetched for his last rites, but Adam wouldn't go get one. AKA, his wife was like, please don't leave me alone with this man. So the stranger died, but Adam didn't even know his name, so he just buried him in an unmarked grave in the back of his yard and got back to work. And that's when it just went full conjuring in his home. He came outside to see that his chickens had randomly been beheaded. Adam said at night it sounded like there was a horse upstairs, like that's how loud the stomping was. But one night, Adam has a dream, and in the dream, he thinks he sees the man that can help him. And the haunting stopped after he went and got this man, who ended up being a Catholic priest like the stranger wanted. They blessed the grave, and if you visit, you can see where they marked his burial site. For more Appalachian horror, check out this week's episode.
You're telling me no one heard that break? I feel like when a fan is about to fall, you kind of just heard and then poof.
Jerry Bruce is a father who loves spending time with his children. If you hop over to his channel, you'll find that most of his videos have a wholesome quality to them. However, out of all the videos on there, 2 in particular stand out from the rest. These 2 videos are different in that they show something that doesn't fit with the family-friendly content of this channel. If anything, they seem to have come from a horror movie, one that is based on a family terrorized by paranormal activity. As it turns out though, that's exactly the case here. Jerry has been encountering strange occurrences in his home that seem to be paranormal in nature. On May 26 of 2009, he is suddenly woken up by a strange noise inside his living room. He immediately grabs his phone and begins to record. Jerry writes, "I have never seen anything like this. My wife and I were awakened by the sound of a door closing. This video is all I got before me and my family left the house." This is what he caught.
I don't know if everybody can see this, and I've done it.
Strangely, the handle on the other side of the door is being turned as though someone inside were doing this. But, as shown in the video, no one is in there. An encounter like this would definitely spook anyone. But then again, there are some who might write this off as being caused by a draft entering the handle's lock. Although it isn't sure if that's the case, it's the second video that seemingly dispels this notion. On July 11 of 2009, Jerry's recording his son when all of a sudden, something really creepy happens. Take a look.
Whoa!
The same closet from the first video can be seen opening on its own. Then, seconds later, a toy flips over by itself. It almost seems like whatever had been inside had tripped over this toy in its attempt to get to the child. It is immediately then that he grabs his son and rushes out of the living room at once. Understandably, Jerry was totally spooked. Viewers believe that he might be dealing with something paranormal. But, as with most videos, it's hard to be sure if that's so. Could it be that a supernatural presence resides in Jerry's closet? Or is something else going on here? You be the judge.
Dude, I don't know what lives in his closet, but he needs to get that closet exterminated. what do they call those things? Like an exorcist? Like those people that come through your house just like warding off evil spirits. He needs one of those.
I don't scare easily, but I'll need a new pair of shorts after this one.
Yo, she looks super familiar to this thing I saw before. I'm not really even too sure what it's called. I'm gonna see if I can find the footage or the picture that I was talking about, the person that she reminded me of.
XXXTentacion unseen body camera footage.
He had an open knife when they pulled him out. Well, so he saw it coming. Yeah. He got both of his things. Yeah. Oh, it's MRO block. Yeah. Yeah. 3046. RIVA. 3671, right? Is the address? 3046. That's already all fucking thing. It's already all over. That's why I fucking say goodnight.
And now fucking PIO is telling me she's posting it on. That's why we gotta get people on the crime scene. That's why. We're all on video. In a crime scene.
Looks like purple or navy blue. Hoodies with gray body and dark pants.
Can we start it? Yeah, can you do that? And what do you want to put on here? Everybody that's here? Everybody that's here. Him, Cap.
The jacket looks like they're wearing a hooded split jacket with purple sleeves and a gray body, black jeans or dark navy blue jeans.
Is there a way to send that from?
What's up?
How you doing? I'll just go ahead and upload it. What number? The number, or can you do it by email? Email makes it easier. It's BRAD.
Black in color. We can advise something, looks purple and navy blue. And the subject was wearing gray hoodie with purple sleeves, gray body, black or navy blue jeans.
MTV's calling.
Yeah, 10-4. You can also add that the rims were blacked out, as well as the one holding the firearm was wearing a red.
They got better video than before.
Copy. Shooting was wearing a red
here
mask.
so nobody walks over there, because that piece of paper already moved. Yeah. I don't know where the rest of them are. The other one's over there by that bag. The wind's going to blow it away, so... Well, the wind's moving the casing around. That's why it's covering them up. Bradley, you got to 3046. I just filmed it off of our DVR. Okay. You can see the whole thing? I just emailed it to him. Brad. Alright, so next time get these fucking people
Level 3 back, just to verify, you did advise a black dog journey that looked purple and navy blue?
Are you still recording?
Yeah, that was aftermath footage for a rapper known as XXXTentacion. I'm pretty sure we looked at his death in like a previous video, like the craziest deaths of all time or something like that. I don't even remember the title for it, but like, yeah, we looked at that. And yeah, sadly, you know, they were trying to steal $50,000 from him, and he didn't want to let the $50,000 go, so he was fighting back, and they just shot him, and he died. R.I.P. X. That was back in 2017. That was a long time, but...
During the early hours of November 1st, 2012, security watching CCTV monitors at an office building in Manchester witnessed a startling series of events in which a ghost seems to wreak havoc in the office. This is the actual footage seen by those security guards as they switched from camera to camera.
Bro just risked his life just to give us the greatest North Korean downtown footage of all time. If he got caught with that, it would have been so over. Oh my goodness. You could see like a couple military officials walking to his right. He instantly made a left. He was like, yeah, nah, we're not going towards them. Towards the end of the footage, you can see that.
You are under surveillance.
I'm not gonna lie, I definitely need to get one of those.
Reddit user Memento Mori had posted a video that was taken outside his house. The footage was taken by a security camera installed in front of his property. However, the video itself has left him spooked. In the video, something very odd was captured. It wasn't until the day after that he posted the video on Reddit in the hopes that someone could explain the footage. But, for some unknown reason, the video has since been removed. Some believe that the user had taken down the video for the reason that no one was really giving an explanation. Yet, others believe that the video is cursed and was taken down for that reason. Although we don't know if that's the case, the video itself is creepy. Take a look at this clip and see what you think. In the middle of the street, a faint image of what appears to be a woman can be seen manifesting out of thin air while walking towards the house. Viewers believe that a ghost was caught on camera, while some believe that a person was caught instead. According to them, it's the camera's quality that makes them look like an apparition. Although that might be the case, it still doesn't explain the odd appearance of this supposed person. Whoever, or whatever this is, seems to be wearing an old-fashioned dress in what looks to be late at night with no one else around. It's the context of the video that makes it strange. But as always, what do you think? Had a ghost been caught on tape? Or was something else captured?
An Indonesian village was getting ready for a gathering when they captured something of a nightmare. User Raxi uploaded a haunting video from a village hall office CCTV cameras, receiving a notification that a person had been detected. Knowing no one should be inside at those hours, since they're the ones who prepare the ceremony, they look over the footage and see this.
Nah, telah ini kali cik saya. Apakah ada yang aneh? Bukan sih ya.
From a distance, the pale ghostly silhouette of a boy is seen with glowing eyes, staring directly at the camera. They record the haunting image onto the social media page immediately after the discovery, with more questions than answers. Just what exactly was this strange apparition that watched them through the camera?
Yo, that is insane. She's so lucky she got inside in time. Like, a split second later and he probably would have just dinked her with the hammer. That's kind of disrespectful. I don't know, bro. People that be stalking and stuff like that, like, that's weird. If you're watching this video and you're a stalker, don't do that shit.
The Appalachian Mountains are one of the scariest places on Earth, and not because of the wildlife or getting lost, it's because of the things people don't talk about. The locals in deep Appalachian communities live by certain unspoken rules, and once you hear them, you'll understand why. They'll tell you never to whistle at night. Not even once. Whistling is said to attract things, not animals, but something else. Things that listen and mimic and come closer each time they hear you. If you hear someone crying deep in the woods, especially a child, you don't go toward the sound. That's not a kid. That's something pretending to be one. And if you see someone you know, a friend, a relative, even a parent, standing outside your house after dark, calling your name, you don't open the door. You don't speak to them, because it might look like them, sound like them, but it's not them. It's something else wearing their voice like a mask. People who grow up in the mountains follow these rules without questioning them. They've seen what happens when someone doesn't. And if you ever find yourself deep in Appalachian territory, just remember, if something feels off, it probably is.
Something supernatural is going on here.
Look right here. Look right here. Right here. Look. Watch. What is that? What is that? And it's just gone, bro. Look at this shit. It's there, and now it's not. It's there, and now it's not, bro. What is that? Bruh. What is that? What is that? And then it's just gone. Bruh. What is that? One more time. Bruh. What is that? What is that?
Dude, that's either a camera glitch or a gnome. You know what I'm talking about? The gnomes, those little... There's been like a thing about like these little gnomes that come alive and they go around following people. So it's either that or a camera glitch.
Strange man walked up to him while he was camping alone in the Appalachian mountains, and unaware of the danger he was in, the guy gave him steak and a beer. And when the camper walked to his tent to grab supplies and came back, he noticed something terrifying.
He wasn't a normal homeless person, if you know what I mean. The more I think about it, the stranger it gets. When I turned back round, he'd gone, scanned about, and he was just walking off into darkness.
She showed up at the door wearing a skeleton around her neck and tried to open it even though she didn't live there.
Can I help you?
Are you alright?
Are you?
Yes, ma'am. I'm just wondering, because I've knocked on the door a couple times.
Because I'm asleep. It's 1 a.m. Please leave.
I was just making sure that you
leave now.
He noticed a random window on the outside of his house that didn't exist inside, and he found an entrance to a secret room through a bureau. But the next day he found something absolutely terrifying.
Let's go back in to the secret room. Let's take a look. Oh my gosh, it's open again. Whoa, this is different in here. What the?
He noticed a suspicious person standing next to his door, and unaware of the danger he was in, he took out his phone and started recording because it was already late and he wasn't expecting anyone. But then he decided to walk up to see who it was.
What in the actual hell?
She found a hidden room behind her bathroom wall, and inside were bags and boxes with people's names written on them. So she started pulling everything out to figure out what this place was. But it only got worse because once the floor cleared, it looked like a kid's playroom, and she got seriously scared to open the boxes. But she noticed something strange when rewatching the video.
This is why you should always lock your doors. This woman got a notification from her Ring camera that someone was at her door, and when she checked the footage, she saw this. A creepy-looking man dressed in a school uniform was standing outside her home, staring directly into her Ring camera. Now, in case you're wondering, she did call the police, and according to an old news article, the man's name is Andre Curlew, who went missing from Ealing Hospital in the UK back in 2018 and suffers from bipolar disorder and paranoid schizophrenia, with the public being warned not to approach him. Imagine getting a Ring alert and seeing this dude outside. Not gonna lie, when he moved closer, my soul actually left my body. Nope, that's a hard note for me.
Nah, he's not kidding. When I saw his eyes like that, I was like, hell no, what? Bro, what would you do if that happened to you? Like, you're just chilling at the crib and then you just look out your window and you see a dude just staring into your Ring camera.
The security footage at the end of this video is 100% real. In October of 2009, the Jameson family loaded their pickup truck for a trip. After they loaded up the truck, they pulled out of the driveway and were never seen again. 8 days later, the Jamesons' pickup truck was found on the side of the road. Locked inside of the truck were their cell phones, wallets and IDs, and $32,000 cash. Also locked inside was the family dog, which was nearly dead due to starvation. Later, this tape was found, showing Bobby and Sherilyn in a trance-like state making dozens of trips back and forth between the truck and the house and never once speaking to one another.
See how he said they never once spoke to each other? That's how you know the guilt was eating them. I'm hoping that they didn't hurt their own kid, but at the end of the day, bro, Comes to videos like this, it's like, shaking my head.
Emmett Till. Emmett Till, an African-American boy from Chicago, went to Mississippi during the summer of 1955 to visit his great-uncle, Moses Wright. Keep in mind that the South at the time was under strict Jim Crow laws, enforcing racial segregation and extreme discrimination against black people. On August 24, 1955, Till and a group of other black teenagers went to Bryant's Grocery and Meat Market, a small store owned by a white couple, Roy and Carolyn Bryant. Carolyn Bryant later accused Till of whistling at her, making lewd comments and possibly touching her hand. Although decades later, she admitted that parts of her testimony were false. On the night of August 28th, her husband, Roy Bryant, and his half-brother, J.W. Milam, armed and enraged, forced their way into Moses Wright's home and Emmett Till at gunpoint. They dragged him out of bed while his terrified relatives watched helplessly. They first took him to a barn where they severely him. They out one of his eyes, his jaw, and out some of his teeth. They pistoled so brutally that his face was unrecognizable. Witnesses said they heard the beating and crying from the barn. They then made him carry a 75-pound cotton gin fan, tied it to his neck with barbed wire, and shot him in the head with a .45 caliber Colt pistol. When his body was eventually found, it sparked public outrage, making it one of the most important cases for the civil rights movement. So much so that Rosa Parks cited his murder as part of the reason she refused to give up her bus seat. Despite overwhelming evidence, the jury acquitted Bryant and Milam of murder in just over an hour. Some jurors even claimed they would have reached a verdict sooner if they hadn't taken a break for soda.
I remember watching a movie on Amazon Prime depicting that. I think it's called like Till. It's either called Till or Emmett, something like that. I think it's called Till. And I remember like seeing that. I was like, yo, that is insane, dude. Over something that wasn't even that bad or that she even made up, which is crazy. Because Emmett Till was a young kid too. He wasn't like a teenager. I think he was like in his early teens at most. Because like he was a young kid and then...
Here's some of the craziest deathbed confessions. So a Hollywood actor named Margaret Gibson admitted during her last breath that she was responsible for murdering the prolific director William Desmond Taylor, while Henry Lucas, a convicted serial killer, confessed on his deathbed that he lied about everything and didn't actually kill anybody. Christian Sperling confessed that the famous 1934 photo of the Loch Ness Monster was a hoax, and that they constructed a model of the creature to pass it off as real. Earl Van Best confessed to being the Zodiac Killer in his final moments, while Walter Pecka confessed to being D.B. Cooper, one of the most famous criminals in history, who hijacked a plane and extorted a ransom of $200,000 before escaping in a parachute and never being seen again. Joseph Valacki provided details on the Mafia in his final moments, becoming the first Mafia member to publicly acknowledge the Mafia in the United States. Francis Thompson had one of the most jarring confessions, stating that he killed his entire family 40 years prior. And finally, James Brewer confessed to murder of a man 32 years earlier in his final moments, but he ended up surviving and then was later arrested for his confession. That's crazy. These are some of the weirdest ways that people have died. So in 1988, a dog fell from a building, landing on a woman's head, killing them both instantly, while a nearby walker stopped to watch it all unfold and was run over by a bus, which then led to an older man dying from a heart attack from the shock of the entire thing. An Indian woman was trampled to death from a vengeful elephant who remembered how a few years back she kidnapped her baby. The elephant also returned a second time at her funeral and trampled on her corpse. Also in India was a man who was urinating on a train track when all of a sudden he was struck by a flying cow that was hit by a train, killing him instantly. A horse jockey from Ireland named Frank Hayes died from a heart attack in the middle of a race, and his horse actually won while it was carrying Frank's body still on it. A student at Kiev Polytech was killed by chewing gum after he accidentally laced it with a citric acid-like powder to increase the gum's sour taste, which instead exploded upon mixing with his saliva. And finally, a man named Jeffrey Bush was lying in bed in his Florida home when all of a sudden a sinkhole appeared under his bedroom and took him in it, and he was never seen again. So rest in peace.
That last one was so random. If that doesn't prove that anytime, at any moment, you could just... I don't know what will. He was just laying there. He didn't do anything. He was in the safety of his house.
The worst ways people have died, part 11.
A woman entered a man's apartment in a manic and crazed state. She rushed in and began to throw and break the man's things, absolutely destroying the apartment. She then ran back out into the hallway where she began fighting with her boyfriend, who lived there. The man immediately called the police. The woman crawled into the garbage chute and fell 16 stories into a dumpster. Police found her unconscious in the dumpster with serious head injuries, and she did not survive.
Follow for more.
What is some of the craziest stuff people have confessed to as they're dying? Well, in this series, I'm going to read to you some of the craziest ones I could find. This story comes from a hospice nurse that was dealing with a patient who had fought in the Vietnam War. Early on in his treatment, she actually asked him if he had any siblings, and he mentioned that he did have a brother, but he passed away in Vietnam. He also had a wife who had previously passed away, and because of this, he didn't have a lot of people that would come visit him. The man had dementia, and the nurse said that at times it felt like he was digging deep into his brain to find moments from his life that he could describe to the nurse in vivid detail. So one night the nurse comes in, and the man is in really rough shape, like it looks like he's not going to make it through the night. And when she walks in, he starts beckoning her over, like, come here, come here, come here. So the nurse comes over, and the man begins to tell her that his brother wasn't killed by an enemy soldier in Vietnam. He had actually killed his brother. And not only that, but these men were twins. So when the brother died, the other one fully assumed his identity when he came back to the States. Meaning that when he came back from the war, he took his brother's entire life, including his wife. The man ended up passing away that night, and later on the nurse told his daughter what she had heard. And the daughter did not believe her at all, but then years later, she finds a handwritten confession from her father stuffed in a Bible. What are some of the craziest things that people have confessed to at the end of their lives? Well, in this series, I'm going to show you some of the wildest stories I found. And I cover all sorts of spooky and true crime stuff on this page, so make sure you follow along. So this story comes from a woman who was helping her mother at the end of her mother's life. The woman actually lived in Europe, but her mom lived in China, so when she got the call that her mother wasn't doing very well, she made the long journey all the way back. And right when she gets there, her mother asks all the doctors and nurses to leave the room. She apparently wanted to be absolutely alone with her daughter. So the daughter's like, "What's up? Are you okay?" And the mom tells her she knows she doesn't have a lot of time left, so there's something she really wants to tell her. Her mother proceeds to tell her that she's not actually her biological mother. And obviously this comes as like a huge shock to the daughter, but it's nothing compared to what came next. The mother proceeds to tell her that when she was younger, she really wanted to have her own kids, but unfortunately she just wasn't able to get pregnant. And not only that, but she didn't have a lot of money, so going through an adoption agency wasn't necessarily an option. So she actually bought the daughter off the black market for adopted children in China, meaning she didn't know if the daughter's adopted parents gave her up willingly or if someone had taken her to put her on the black market. The mother actually passed away just shortly after that, and we haven't gotten any update from the poster if she got any more information on her biological family.
Worst ways people have died. Gary Anderson. A tape measure fell from 50 stories and hit him in the head. He was even wearing a safety helmet, but walked right past it.
The victim, apparently a very religious man, was in the middle of telling a story and uttered the words, "God is good," the moment right before he was hit and killed.
Worst ways celebrities have died. This is Rob Ford.
Ford came under intense media scrutiny during a colorful political career, which he began as a Toronto city councillor in 2000. A staunchly conservative voice in a liberal city, Ford was elected mayor in 2010, promising to lower taxes and cut spending. Criticism from his opponents went beyond the usual political infighting, as Ford lurched from scandal to controversy. But it was substance abuse that proved to be his downfall, following a string of allegations about drunken behavior in public. That culminated in the flamboyant mayor's admission that he smoked crack cocaine in 2013, after denying it despite video evidence. Yet even under the constant glare of the media spotlight, Ford only withdrew his mayoral candidacy in 2014 because of poor health.
Actual photo of Ford. Ford in the hospital.
Nah, if people have a video of you that substance and you're gonna tell people, nah, that's not it, it wasn't that, listen, then you're bugging, bro. He really had the confidence to think he could have got away with that. That's hilarious.
Worst ways celebrities have died. XXX was withdrawing $50,000 in cash. He went to a nearby shop to get a motorcycle. On the way back, he is stopped by two men with a car. They opened fire on him and hit him with 29 shots. He later succumbed to his injuries in hospital.
That story was a little bit over exaggerated, but they didn't hit him with 29 shots. I think he got hit like with 2 shots, and they shot at him like around 5 times. He was trying to withdraw $250,000, but he was only able to withdraw $50,000. And then he went to the motorcycle place, left the motorcycle place. They came in front of his car trying to rob him, but he was just, you know what I'm saying? He has like a little bit of an ego. So when he pulled the guns out, like, yo, give me the bag, he was like, hell no. Started fighting them back. He was like, I'm not giving you my bag. In which they shot him, and then he died. RIPX.
Here are the dumbest ways people have died, except each time it gets dumber. In 2011, Jose was a 35-year-old man attending an illegal cockfighting match in California. One of the birds got loose and accidentally stabbed Jose in the calf with a knife that was strapped to its leg. Before you feel too bad for him though, he wasn't just an attendee either, he was fined in the past for owning and training animals for fighting, so. In 1993, Gary was a lawyer in the Toronto Dominion Center and was demonstrating to other law students that the windows to the building were unbreakable. He threw his body against a window and it popped out of its frame and Gary fell 24 stories. However, Gary was right, since the window itself didn't actually break. In 2012, Greg Gingrich was vacationing at the Grand Canyon with his daughter, and he began to pretend to lose his balance and fall in an attempt to frighten her, which probably didn't work. Well, Greg was pretty committed to the bit and jumped over a protective guardrail to keep people from falling. There was a short drop below that he was gonna fall to, but he accidentally slipped and missed and fell 400 feet into the canyon, which, to his credit, probably did end up frightening his daughter. In 2018, John Allen Chow was a Christian missionary and winner of the 2018 Darwin Awards after he illegally traveled to the North Sentinel Island in India, which has the Sentinelese tribe, who voluntarily isolate themselves from any human contact and are extremely hostile to anyone that comes in contact. His sole mission that he wanted to do was to convert the tribe to Christianity, and on his first visit, he left quickly after being met with hostility. On his second visit, an arrow was shot and hit John's Bible right next to his chest. John went back a third and final time, where fishermen later saw his body being dragged by the islanders. If you think you're smarter than these people, follow.
This man is one of the worst serial killers in US history, and a lot of people don't know about him. This is the story of Dean Corll, also known as the Candyman or the Pied Piper. So Dean Corll was described as a shy, serious kid who was kind of a loner. His parents had remarried and divorced twice. His mother eventually got remarried and moved to the family to Texas. So I did mention that he goes by 2 different nicknames. And we are going to talk about both of them, but let's start with the first one, which is the Candyman. Now, he earned that nickname because when his family moved back to Texas, they opened up a candy company. Dean Corll eventually made his way to become the vice president of the candy company, and he earned a reputation of being really kind to the local children, particularly the teenage boys. Like, he put a pool table in the back of his factory so that the local kids could hang out. And he was known to give out lots of free candy. So they called Dean Corll the Candyman. He did make a couple of inappropriate advances to some of the younger staff at his company, but if they complained, he would just fire them. Then in 1967, Dean Corll met someone who is incredibly important to this story because they alter the course of each other's lives forever. In 1967, Dean Corll met David Owen Brooks, who was only 12 years old at the time. David was only in 6th grade when they met, and he was in a vulnerable position to be taken advantage of. His parents were divorced, he didn't have a lot of money, and he got made fun of all the time for the way he looked and because he wore glasses. But he started to hang out at the pool table behind Dean Corll's factory. Dean Corll gave him free candy. He gave him money if he needed it. And David said that Dean Corll was one of the first adults he had met who didn't make fun of the way he looked. And he came to view Dean Corll as a father figure in his life. He didn't know he made friends with a psychopath, though, because this is what Dean Corll was doing. Because Dean Corll exploited his trust and convinced him to let him essay him in exchange for money. Which totally mind-fucked him, because he eventually dropped out of high school and came to regard Dean Corll's apartment as his second home. And he unfortunately always felt a deep sense of loyalty to Dean Corll, which is so sad because he is one of those special kind of monsters that turns their victims into victimizers.
There's a really famous mystery called the Dyatlov Pass, and it's about these hikers in the 50s, these 9 really experienced hikers who are going for their what's called their level 3 mountaineering test. And the way you pass your level 3, you have to map out this route. They use the Ural Mountains, so big, snow-swept, like huge icy mountains. And so they brought cameras with them. They set off on this journey, And I think they reached the first checkpoint. I forget what it is, but they didn't make it to whatever second checkpoint or whatever it was. And there was a protocol for the people who were sort of sponsoring this test, where if they missed a checkpoint, there's like this big search that goes out to make sure they're okay. So they missed the checkpoint, this protocol is enacted, and not only are there pictures that we will get from the hikers, but there was cameras that came with the search crew. They follow the trail that they're supposed to be on. This is, again, there's no trees. It's just like the tundra. It's like ice and snow and mountains. And they come across this mountain off in the distance, and they see on the windswept side of the mountain, basically halfway up, are these tents that are just these like canvas tents. You can barely see them, but they're situated right in the middle of the slope, which is like strategically one of the worst places you can place these tents. So immediately they're thinking, one, it has to be the hikers, because who else is out here right now? But two, why in the world would these incredibly talented hikers, why would they ever pitch their tent there? This is the most hazardous part. The wind can whip you off. So they see these tents. They're in the wrong spot. They go up to the tents, and the hikers aren't there. They're not in there. There's pictures of this too. The tents inside had stacks of clothing neatly folded and placed in the corners, like they left their clothes behind. And the tents themselves were cut open, like with a knife, but somehow they deduced that they had been cut open, but from the inside. So presumably one or multiple of the mountaineers chose to cut open these tents in like negative 50-degree weather. And then there were all these prints in the snow that led down the mountain. And some of the prints were bare feet, some had one shoe and one barefoot. And it's all 9 of the hikers. They spotted these prints, and they follow the prints down the hill or the mountains, a big space, and they find this little crops of trees. And when they get to the trees, they find 3 of the hikers, and they're all deceased. And there's one who's basically almost naked, wrapped up on the ground. There's pictures of this. There's one who I believe was draped over one of the branches up in one of the trees, and then another one that was also on the ground as well. And there's these deep scratch marks in the tree, like gouges on the tree, as if some animal had been scratching at this tree. And all 3 of these hikers are deceased. There's more footprints that lead away from those 3 about a mile, kind of back in the direction the search party had come from. And there's this big snowdrift that created sort of like a snow cave underneath it. And the footprints lead into the snow cave where the other 6 hikers were, and they're all deceased as well. Except in there, the hikers had seemingly exchanged clothing, and they know this because the women were wearing men's clothing and vice versa. Some of their clothes had trace levels of radiation, and some of them had parts of their face removed, it looked like. Lips, nose, ears, it almost looked like surgical precision removal. They're all deceased, and one of the injuries, there was a person in there who their chest had basically been caved in, and it was deduced that the impact it would have taken, the impact would have been equivalent to like a speeding car smashing into you at full speed. But there's no sign of anything that could have done this damage. And so they're all deceased. And so the Soviet government, they launched an investigation. And during this investigation, they discover that there was a huge military exercise, a Russian military exercise taking place in the Ural Mountains, who had no idea about these hikers. They have no clue that the level 3 mountaineering test is going on. That's not even on their radar. And they're 15, 20 miles away. And one of their senior commanders, on the same night that it's believed the hikers all died and whatever happened to them happened, he began noticing all these strange lights in the sky over the Ural Mountains, going up and down and moving all around, to the point where he actually thought it was another country, a foreign country. Are they invading us? And he literally thought it was like an invasion of Russia. And he sent out messages to say, hey, what's happening over there? Having no idea that he was pointing to the one spot where these hikers were. So during this investigation, they discover that families are clamoring for information about their lost loved ones. Nobody has any idea what's going on. And suddenly the Soviet government says, we're going to shut this investigation down. All we know is that the 9 hikers who died from an unknown, unnatural force. Sealed.
This CCTV footage shows this woman's last moments before she was brutally murdered by this man, only moments later. Hi, I'm Meg. I talk about true crime. Let's get into this case. Grace Millane was only 22 and she had just graduated from the University of Lincoln. She was really excited about what was next to come. She had spent years saving up for a backpacking trip, and it was finally time for her to go. First, she went to South America for around 6 weeks. And according to her family, she was bombarding them with updates and pictures. She was a family girl. In November of 2018, she arrived in New Zealand. She was doing the whole solo travel thing, so she was on her own. Over a week later, she made her way to Auckland, where she checked into a hostel. Overall, she seemed to have been having a great time. December 1st, 2018, only a day before her birthday, she leaves the hostel at 6 p.m. to meet up with a guy from Tinder. This Tinder date's name was Jesse and he was 26 years old. You can see them meeting here in the CCTV footage and heading over to a restaurant/bar. Grace was being safe and she was texting her friend during the entire date, telling her that they were really compatible and that was going well. Jesse was apparently living in a hotel at the time, and around 9:30 they decided to head there. And these are Grace's last moments seen alive. The footage that comes after this is insane. December 2nd, aka the next day, was Grace's birthday, so her loved ones from England just started sending her loads of texts. Happy birthday, they were trying to call her. She wasn't responding, which was extremely out of character for her. Now, let me show you what Jesse was doing on the 2nd of December. Here's Jesse leaving the hotel. Here's Jesse up in that corner, buying a suitcase, returning it to the hotel, buying cleaning supplies, and lifting these suitcases back into the elevator and into a rental car that he bought that day. That same day, he even bought carpet cleaner, like a whole machine that cleans carpets, and told the hotel it was because he spilled some red wine on the floor. Safe to say he's looking a bit suspicious. By December 5th, Grace's family had not heard back from her yet. At this point, they had a really bad feeling, and so they called the Auckland police to let them know that she was missing. So they filed the missing persons report, and the Auckland police started digging. The police did an amazing job in this case.
This is Worst Deaths Imaginable number 67. Viewer discretion is advised. Pictured here was the lovely Elizabeth Mary Isherwood of Wales, which is in the United Kingdom. In September of 2017, she was vacationing. She had gone to the city of Machynlleth, which is in Wales, and she was staying at the Plas Tolgarth, if I'm saying that correctly, a popular holiday home. On the first night that Elizabeth checked in, other guests would report hearing banging noises coming from her room. Noises they would later say they thought was just maintenance. It wasn't. Now, I don't know what an airing cupboard is. To my knowledge, we don't have those in the United States unless they're called something different. So if someone from the United Kingdom sees this and can explain exactly what it is, I looked up images, I've seen things like this, possibly this, maybe something a little deeper than the last one, like this, but I don't know. So I don't have an accurate image of the room she was found in. But in the middle of the night, it's believed that she got up to use the restroom and had accidentally walked into the airing cupboard. Somehow the door closed and locked behind her. Now, it's believed that at first, Elizabeth began banging on the door, banging on the walls, in hopes that someone might hear her. She was also likely screaming for help. But no one came. No one responded. It is then believed that she began to try to claw her way out of the room, literally. It was a small room, apparently, and it had bricks on the walls, so I guess she was digging through that to try to make a hole. And she did this for likely 24 hours at least. And she actually did make a hole in the wall. And it's believed that she was a couple inches away from being able to, I guess, open the door. But during the process of her digging through the wall, she managed to burst a pipe that was inside the walls. When she did so, water would come spraying down from the ceiling and the walls. It's also important to note that she was not wearing any clothing, and she had nothing in there to cover herself with and nothing to warm herself up. For at least the next couple of days, yes, she was constantly being rained on by freezing cold water, and she continued to bang and scream, but again, no one came to her rescue. After a few days, maintenance finally went to the room because of the water leakage, and the deceased body of Elizabeth was found. She had died of hypothermia For a couple of days, she slowly froze to death. The family did sue, but I cannot find the outcome.
This is one of those cases that doesn't sit right with me. This is Dorothy Jane Scott. She was murdered in the 1980s, and for years, the killer tormented her family with phantom phone calls. And to this day, they are still out there somewhere. So let's dive into the story. So the story of Dorothy's disappearance is really strange. On the night of May 28, 1980, Dorothy drove two of her friends to the hospital, as one of them had been bitten by a spider that night. So at the end of the hospital visit, while they were waiting to get a prescription filled, Dorothy Jane walked to go grab her car and bring it up so that the two friends could meet her outside. And once they were outside, the friends saw Dorothy's car coming towards them, but it quickly sped off and left them there. Now, they couldn't see who exactly was in the car, who was driving, because the headlights blinded them, but in a few hours, they reported her missing because they couldn't get in contact with Dorothy. And she would be missing for years. So in the months leading up to her murder, Dorothy had acquired a stalker. She had been receiving phone calls at work from a strange, unidentified male caller. And on these phone calls, this guy would tell her how much he loved her, and then he would state that he intended on killing her soon. One day, this phantom man even told Dorothy to go outside because he left a surprise on her car, and when she went outside to look, there was a single dead rose on her windshield, which is very creepy. On one of these particularly gruesome phone calls, the caller even stated that he planned on abducting Dorothy and chopping her up into little bits so that no one would ever find her. So these phone calls obviously terrified Dorothy, and in the week leading up to her disappearance, she started taking karate lessons. Okay, so let's flash back to the night that Dorothy disappeared. Remember, her friends were waiting for her outside of the hospital when they saw her car speed by them, but they couldn't see who was inside the vehicle. At around 4:30 a.m. that morning, 5 hours or so after they saw her car speeding away, the car was found abandoned in an alleyway 10 miles from the hospital, and it was on fire, which torched all evidence that could have been in the vehicle. So Dorothy would be missing for years, 4 years in fact. But it only took 1 week after her disappearance for the killer to start calling her own parents. So about every Wednesday afternoon for a period after Dorothy went missing, this caller would call her parents and say the strangest things. He would tell them things like, "I have her." He would also claim that he was the one who killed Dorothy. He was basically tormenting her parents and saying that he knows exactly where she is and what had happened, but he was never going to tell them. Now, 4 years later, this was going on for 4 years, in April of 1984, this caller once again called Dorothy's family, but instead of her mom picking up the phone that night, her dad did. And after her dad picked up the phone calls completely stopped. That is, until a few months later. Now, in August of 1984, a construction worker would come across a set of bones that belonged to a human and a dog. And those bones were eventually revealed to be those of Dorothy's. And immediately after her remains were found, the caller once again began to call her parents. This time, the police installed a recorder that bugged the family's phones. They were trying to get this guy's voice on recording and trace the phone calls, but the calls were never long enough for them to trace, and they still had no idea who this guy was. To this day, authorities still don't know how Dorothy died. And even though the phone calls eventually stopped, the killer's never been brought to justice. Now, the only suspect that's ever emerged in this case still doesn't have a name. It's the same guy that called, obviously, Dorothy's family, but it was a man who called a local newspaper just a few days after Dorothy went missing. And on this phone call, this guy said that he loved Dorothy, she had been cheating on him, and that he was the one who killed her. So that means that to this day, this killer is probably still out there somewhere, and they've never been brought to justice. This crime occurred over 40 years ago. There are no leads, and I don't think that this is a case that will ever be solved. If this killer dies, I'm sure that they're going to take this secret to the grave with them.
This might be the most gruesome death of all time, and whatever you do, don't look up the picture. This is 18-year-old Nikki Castoris, and on Halloween 2006, she crashed her father's Porsche 11 driving at more than 100 miles per hour. She was trying to switch lanes when she suddenly clipped another car, lost control, and then flew over the middle of the highway onto traffic lanes and into a concrete toll booth. And when police arrived, they walked into literally a nightmare. They arrived minutes later and they found Nikki's body still strapped to the driver's seat, but her head, however, was no longer attached to it. Nikki's head was completely severed in half, and it wasn't a head anymore. I can't even describe what it looks like because it's so disturbing. The wreckage and the scene were so brutal that the coroner wouldn't let her parents identify her body. But unfortunately, her parents were not spared from seeing the gruesome scene. Photographs of Nikki's death had somehow found their way onto the internet, and they spread extremely quickly. MySpace pages who were acting as some sort of tribute for Nikki's death posted the horrifying pictures of the accident. Nikki's parents then received countless emails of the photographs, and there was no escaping the trauma. I really urge you never to look up this photo because it might be one of the most disturbing things you will ever see. This case should be an eye-opener to everybody to not drive recklessly, because as you can tell, your life can be taken from you in a split second.
Dude, the internet is a demon, dude. It went viral and the people found her parents and sent her parents emails of the pictures. That's crazy.
This is the worst way somebody has ever died, and whatever you do, never look up the picture. This is Hisashi Ouchi, and he became the most radioactive man in history after a lab accident. On September 30th, 1999, the 34-year-old Hisashi and two other co-workers were working at the Takamura nuclear plant in Takamura, Japan, and they were put on an extremely tight deadline by their superiors. The plant converted uranium hexafluoride into enriched uranium for the purposes of nuclear energy. This usually involved a carefully timed multi-step process, but Hisashi and his co-workers attempted to take a shortcut to meet their deadlines, but this led to an horrific explosion of uranium solution that turned into a nightmare for Hisashi. The plant underwent emergency evacuation and the three men were immediately rushed to help. They all had been directly exposed to harmful radiation, but to different degrees. The sole survivor of the group was exposed to 3 sieverts of radiation. The second one was exposed to 10 sieverts of radiation. And Hisashi was exposed to a whopping 17 sieverts of radiation, which was more than any human in history. And by the time Hisashi arrived at the hospital, his body was already covered in burns, and his eyes were leaking blood, but his agony had just begun. 3 days after the accident, Hisashi was transferred to the University of Tokyo Hospital. Hisashi's lack of white blood cells and his non-existent immune response prompted experts to try a number of procedures to save him. Doctors tried countless skin grafts and blood transfusions, and even stem cell transplants, but sadly, none of these seemed to work. Hisashi soon cried out, "I can't take it anymore, I'm not a guinea pig," just after 1 week of treatment. But although Hisashi begged for his death, his family insisted that doctors kept him alive to keep trying experimental treatments. Hisashi's skin began to melt off his body, and even after this, his relatives ordered his doctors to do whatever it took to keep him alive. All in all, Hisashi was kept alive against his will for a disturbing 83 days. At one point, he suffered 3 heart attacks in 1 hour. Following the guidelines from his family, the doctors resurrected him again and again. Every time he died, he came back and suffered extreme brain damage. And on December 21st, 1999, Hisashi finally died of his last heart attack after multi-organ failure, and it was only then that his torture stopped. You really can't fathom the amount of pain this man was in until you see the photo of him. He doesn't even look human and kind of looks like an insect. The radiation poisoning is that bad, but I really don't recommend you look it up. But if you do, while you're looking at it, keep in mind he was kept alive for 83 days in that state. Could you honestly imagine what was going through his head and what his body was feeling?
I actually made a video about that topic of that dude with the most radiation burns of all time. Yeah, that was like one of my first ever YouTube videos ever made. I might try to link it in this video actually.
I may fail, but if I fail, I want to die trying. We're all gonna die anyways. It's just a matter of how and when.
Only moments after that video was recorded, Pedro Ruiz was shot dead with a Desert Eagle. All of this was captured on camera as a part of his first YouTube video. So this all happened in 2017. Pedro and his girlfriend Mona Lisa had been dating for a while. They had a child together. And at the time that this video was recorded, Mona Lisa was pregnant with their second child. Pedro had big dreams of becoming a YouTuber, and he thought he could really break into the YouTube scene by having his girlfriend shoot him in the chest with a Desert Eagle. Pedro believed that by holding a thick book in front of him, he could stop the bullet. This is an actual crime scene photo of the book that was used in the filming of this video, and you can see that it clearly did not stop the bullet. Right before this video was filmed, Mona Lisa tweeted out, "Me and Pedro are probably going to shoot one of the most dangerous videos ever. His idea, not mine." A lot of this footage is online, but you can see Pedro taking out the golden Desert Eagle, waving it around. but investigators have never released the footage of the actual fatal shot that took his life. Sadly, you can see in the transcript of the video, though, that Mona Lisa was extremely hesitant to do this. In the first place, she hadn't wanted to shoot her boyfriend with a gun. She had been pressured into it. And in the footage, she says, "Babe, I'm not doing this. I can't. If I kill you, what's going to happen to my life? Like, no, this isn't okay." And Pedro in the transcript keeps reassuring her, saying, "As long as you hit the book, you'll be fine." Well, sadly, Mona Lisa did hit the book with the bullet. It was actually a pretty accurate shot there. But unfortunately, the bullet went straight through the book and took Pedro's life. Now, afterwards, Mona Lisa was left alone with their 2 children, and she was eventually sentenced to a 180-day jail term. But ever since the accident, Mona Lisa has really tried to turn her life around. She's actively talked about this whole situation. She's still active on social media. And I have to say, I actually went to school with Mona Lisa when I was younger, and she was a great person. I couldn't believe that this happened. I couldn't believe seeing this on the news. And yeah, just what a tragic story for all parties involved. And also, if you like true crime...
Worst ways people have lost their lives. Part 34. Nabil Rahman, an 11-year-old boy. He was coming home from school when he got into the elevator with other people. The lift got stuck between the 2nd and 3rd floors. Both the inner and outer doors were open. Nabil stuck his head out, but at that moment, the elevator suddenly dropped, crushing his skull. Colin Whitaker, 64 years old. He was at a movie theater in England with his partner. During the film, he dropped his phone and bent down to pick it up. Suddenly, the motorized footrest of his seat lowered automatically, trapping his head. Although Colin managed to sit back up, he suffered a fatal heart attack just seconds later. Will Page, a 22-year-old British man. After working on his van in an industrial area of Derbyshire, he was heading home. While driving, a gust of wind violently moved a safety bar. The bar pierced through the windshield and struck him directly in the chest, killing him instantly.
The worst ways to die in history. To be beautiful in the Victorian era, you had to be very, very thin. This was naturally quite hard to achieve, but there was one diet that was all the rage. The tapeworm diet. The patient would willfully take a pill containing the egg of a tapeworm, which they then raise inside of their stomach for months until it grew to maturity, feeding on all of their calories and helping them to achieve that coveted 16-inch waist. That's to say if it didn't kill them first. Most tapeworms attach to the intestine, but larvae can also attach to the heart, eyes, lungs, or brain. They can grow up to 30 feet long, and excreting one is a horrific experience that can take days. And what happens if the worm doesn't come out the other end on its own? Well, doctors would go fishing inside the patient's digestive tract, inserting a metal cylinder stuffed with bait through the host's mouth down into their intestines. The procedure often caused the patient to choke to death before the worm could even be caught. And you might be wondering why this was so popular, but remember, this was a time when people ingested mercury and bathed in arsenic, so this kind of thing was par for the course.
Crazy Ways People Have Died, Part 1. In 2010, a man named Sam Ballard was dared by his drunk friends to eat a slug. And so he did. Little did he know the slug gave him a parasite, which made him paralyzed and sick. He stayed this way for 8 years till 2018, when he was 28. The sickness became too much for him, and he died. Stop just putting stuff in your mouths! Stop!
Eating a slug is crazy. I never even knew slugs were that deadly, for real. There was this challenge where people would eat goldfish wholes, but I don't think anyone specifically died from that. I don't know, dude. People always just do some stupid things, and then sometimes people don't think something could be that big, becomes their biggest regret, and they're gone.
Thank you all for watching this here video.